Hi, I'm Jodi Pelders. I'll be presenting on a project, a StatCap project relating to people-centric modernisation. And the focus of this project in the past year has been on the inclusion of stakeholders in equipment design and development. Thanks for listening into my presentation. The aim of the project is to support people-centric modernisation through stakeholder inclusion in equipment design and development. Stakeholders here include a range of mining company stakeholders ranging from management down to operators and artisans, as well as labour representatives and manufacturers and even government departments. The objectives of the project are to firstly understand the benefits and shortcomings of stakeholder inclusion in equipment design and development. Secondly, to get more insight into current and best practice approaches for this. And then finally, to develop a guideline for stakeholder inclusion in equipment design and development. And that's applicable for the modernising mining industry in South Africa. I'll give a bit of a background to the project before I go into the results and the guideline itself. As we are aware, the mining sector needs to modernise to remain viable, and this will involve increased use of new technologies. And we also know that improved participation of stakeholders in equipment design and development is related to the successful adoption of technologies associated with modernisation. It's also improved participation helps to improve product safety and productivity benefits. Human-centered design was identified as the recommended approach. I've included the definition in the box on the slide. There's a number of principles underlying this approach, including understanding of the whole context of use, the users and the tasks, involving the end users throughout equipment design and development, fitting the design to the user, not the other way around. Also that the process is iterative, so it involves feedback and evaluation. And this design team should include a range of skills and perspectives. And the design process should be customizable to the particular context. I'll now move on to a few of the research findings. The stakeholders mentioned that there is limited participation of stakeholders in equipment design and development in the mining sector. For example, the end users or operators are only often involved in the process once the equipment prototype has already been developed and it's being trialled or implemented at mines. In some cases, mining management are involved, but in initial stages, that's usually if they have a particular problem that they would like to have solved at their operation. And the participants also mentioned differences between market pull versus technology push factors. Often there's better engagement when the demand has been identified by industry rather than the developers identifying the need and then trying to sell it to industry once it has been developed. And again, in the process, lots of different stakeholders were identified. Some of those are listed on the screen. Also included a few quotes from the participants, and I think I'll leave you a few moments to read that. Then also during the research, we found that there are numerous perceived benefits of including stakeholders in the design and development process. As I've mentioned, this includes improved health, safety and well-being, and really it helps to get input from the workforce themselves about practical implications, the applications of the equipment, what will work, what wouldn't, and the environment that they will use it in. Also, it's linked to improve ownership and acceptance, linked to improved competitive advantage, and that the equipment can get to market quicker as they get all the required inputs early on in the process. And various other benefits too. And again, here a few quotes from the participants relating to this. The last quote mentions that there's a ripple effect of the benefits between different stakeholders. So if workers benefits, or if mining companies benefits and OEMs benefits, then all stakeholders will benefit from that process. And there are a number of barriers to the inclusion of stakeholders in equipment design and development, in particular in the South African mining industry. The participants often mention that there's a lack of resources, such as funding for research and development. It's difficult for workers to come out of a production environment to participate in equipment design and development. There's various logistic constraints. Also, challenges such as those relating to confidentiality and intellectual property and legislative concerns, as well as matters such as organizational culture, attitudes, and change management, and even perhaps a lack of skills. Also, other like worker and union concerns would also be relating to what the impact of the technology would be, or equipment, if it is implemented in mines. So that would need to be addressed before the stakeholders can be included or participate. Here again are some quotes from the participants that you can read, such as addressing the research gap between the knowledge of the end users and the manufacturers. There's numerous factors that the participants mentioned need to be considered in the design and development process. A lot of these are related to the factors, the principles underlying human-centered design that I mentioned earlier. That includes understanding the whole impact, the whole system of use, the users, the task, and the environment, and addressing the whole user experience, as well as organizational requirements, cost-benefit analysis, including the right people, developing skills, and effective change management. And here again are some quotes from the participants. Part of the project also looked at assessing the impacts of the COVID pandemic relating to inclusion in equipment design and development. The participants mentioned that there's been increased use of online or remote communication platforms. There has been, such as during lockdown, restricted access to mines for testing or trialing equipment, as well as a reduced focus on research and development. There have been some job losses, such as businesses closing down along the mining supply chain, along with delays in the supply of materials or products from international suppliers. It also highlighted the need to improve local capacity, such as skills in mining to fix equipment breakdowns rather than relying on international skills. It also highlighted the need for a human-centered approach in measures to manage the effects of the pandemic, so the control measures there. And again, the participants commented on that, of how the COVID pandemic has forced us to change our approach. In the project, we did a case study relating to the Isidingo Drill Challenge. This was a Mandela Mining Precinct initiative that formed part of the project in the Longevity of Current Mines program. The aim was to develop healthier and safer and more efficient drills for the industry, as the industry has been using the same type of conventional drills for a long time, and there's a need to improve those. I've included a couple pictures of the surface testing of the drill, and also some comments from the participants relating to open innovation and stakeholder inclusion. I'll now briefly touch on the guideline that we developed in the project. Of course, that was to improve stakeholder inclusion and equipment design and development. This would be a voluntary process and would need to be customized according to the particular context of use. And it might be better suited for situations when there has been industry has identified the need for the new equipment or technology. It's based on ISO 9421 standards, which can be referred to also for more detailed information relating to the human-centered design approach. The guideline comprised 5 basic stages or steps. These are illustrated in the model on the screen. That relates to demand analysis, secondly, product specifications, thirdly, equipment design and development, then the demonstration, pilot, review and refinement of the equipment, and then the adoption. You'll see, I think the arrows illustrate the direction of the process, but there's also feedback required. So after each stage, the previous, you'd need to assess that all the requirements of the previous stages have been met before moving on to the next stage. So monitoring and evaluation is important. Here I've shown the basic guideline. I know it's a bit small to read, and it doesn't actually, this has been simplified, but basically it shows that the basic steps in the process and different sub-steps that can be followed for each stage, as well as examples of methods that can be used in each of the stages, as well as potential stakeholders to be involved. Underpinning factors include the need for loop learning, hazard analysis, change management, as well as assessing the impacts of jobs and the skills implications. So in conclusion, the study found that improved participation of stakeholders in equipment design and development has both social and economic benefits. There are, however, a number of barriers to this inclusion, to this process, including aspects such as time and funding constraints, a lack of skills, and a lack of a systematic plan or approach. Human-centered system design approach was identified as good practice for this project. We also identified that there was a gap between theory and practice and between knowledge of the manufacturers and end users. And the guideline that was drafted will hopefully help stakeholders to involve more stakeholders in the equipment design and development process in the South African mining sector. So as recommendations, we'd recommend including stakeholders in early stages and throughout equipment design and development. And it would be of benefit if industry identifies the equipment or technology needs for the sector. Of course, the barriers such as intellectual property and confidentiality concerns would need to be addressed, as well as interventions to improve the capacity of local manufacturers. Other factors would need to be addressed in parallel to these equipment design and development processes for the success of the modernisation of the South African mining sector, and that includes aspects such as culture transformation and setting up platforms to discuss modernisation in the sector. Thank you.